Kata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice Eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amogha Vairocana Maha Mudra Mani Padma Java Pravataya Please join in these simple mindfulness exercises. Being fully present, bringing your fingers around the edge of your face strongly, without touching your eyes, your ears, your nose and your mouth. And then fingers down on the top of the head, pressing like acupuncture points. Pulling the ears down 3 times. Leaning forward, inhaling as you stretch back. And breathing in the position. Coming up on the inhalation, stretching the arms well. Head right back, eyes toward the ceiling. Stretch up with your arms. Breathe. Releasing down. Inhale up. Exhale down to the left. It'll be coming back up, breathing and exhaling down. Good, now bring your fingers together behind your back and bring your shoulder blades together too. Inhaling and exhaling. Letting the arms come over the head. Inhaling up. And keeping the spine straight, twist first to one side. Head all the way around. Inhale forward. And exhale to the other. And inhale forward. And changing directions, remembering the principle as your body opens up, we inhale, and as we close and fold forward, we exhale. And then coming up for sideways bending of the spine. Inhaling, opening, exhaling, folding. Inhaling, and then exhaling to fold. Inhaling and exhaling. Please stand and prepare for the chanting of the 3 refuges. First in Sino-Korean, and then in English. And I guess mute your mics, and Mom and I you'll hear the 2 of us from the temple. Chi sim quimyon ne shivang samse chemang chale Sangju ilche Shishima Quimyon Nea Sivang Samse Shemang Chale Sa Rimyong Ne Shivang Samse Che Mong Chale Song Ju Il Che Song Gaya And please repeat after me the English version. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
And realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return to your places for meditation. We'll have a shorter period now, just 5 minutes. Please go ahead with your own meditation practice. If you're new to meditation or have experience and like to try from the Anapanasati Sutta, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. And continuing that in that practice through your whole body. Please sit comfortably. Ma'um is going now to do a reading. I'm going to adjust the camera so that you can see her. And we do a reading every day during breakfast at the temple, either from the Dhammapada or from a book also, and from a book called Stepping into Freedom. And this week, instead of the Dhammapada reading, Mom will read the Stepping into Freedom from words from Master Guishan. So please bring your hands together as you're listening. Breathe deeply so that you can fully bring in the depth of the message. Dharma.
Time is precious. Do not misuse the offerings given you. Don't miss the opportunity to show your gratitude. Do not accumulate unnecessary possessions. If you don't practice correctly, your life will be filled with obstacles. But do not underestimate yourself. Practice heroically. Don't give up. Touch your bodhicitta. Embrace and cherish the loftiest goals. Imitate those worth admiring and don't entrust your destiny to anyone else. Still your mind, end wrong perceptions. Concentrate and do not run after the objects of your senses. The only true object of your mind should be the ultimate suchness or nirvana.
A pile of curly willow branches by Buddha Hall door as we begin cleaning up our garden for spring. Bleeding heart plant, 40 years behind the ailanthus tree, is beginning to come up again. And magnolia into bloom on the street. And here on the altar, onions. And we keep going on day by day. Everyday life is the way of Buddha. Indeed. Good morning, everyone, in the 10 directions. It has been such a beautiful thing to be doing these morning talks on Sunday and hearing afterwards that many of you from over the years and from distances have tuned in. And it's just a great delight to hear from you. I hope you're well. And I know even that there's some of our children watching. I hear from your parents that what you're up to. And it sounds like the kids are keeping everything alive. It's called the Great Homeschool Pandemic. Yeah. Again, good morning. So I want to start out to tell you a little story. When I was last in Chicago in late February at the temple, Sushim Bob Kessler, who's the Dharma teacher there, and I went for a walk. We hadn't seen each other for over a year, and so I wanted to catch up. And actually, the first thing I asked him was, how's your playing of the harmonica? Because that's his great talent and great passion, one of them. And he said, oh, it's going wonderful. And I especially appreciate my mentor. And I said, oh, why do you, what's that about? And he said, well, you know, he helps me with practice. And, you know, over the years, I've done a lot of harmonica practice. And I have these ways that I practice that are pretty much what all ways that most harmonica players practice. My guess is the scales, etc. And he said, but my teacher, my mentor, Ramsey Lewis, asks me to go to some of the classical musicians like Bach, Schumann, Chopin. And he said, and it's really difficult. It's such a change of pace. Yet it's very beautiful. And it really brings out a whole different part of me as a harmonica player. And I think of this story because right now we are in the midst of not allowed to be a one-trick pony. Just our habits will do. The way we've done it will do. We're at a stage where we have to get a little more creative. We need to reach deeper within ourselves in response. And it can be a beautiful thing. Yeah. It's kind of what koans in our tradition or wadus are about, as this reaching a whole different place in ourselves. So then comes 2 or 3 little stories. First, though, let's look at meditation. You know, at first, when we come to meditation, we learn to stop and to be still as much as we can. And then to be quiet. It's quite a change of pace, and just that can be very challenging. And especially when we have a life where there's a lot going on, it's hard to stay still. But after a while, we learn that little by little. And as our concentration deepens, then we come to sometimes there's really a lot of different meditation methods, but in our tradition, we have what's called koan or wadu practice. Once you can sit still and keep quiet and keep your mind relatively concentrated, then we go on to wadu practice. And you might have heard of wadu or koans. They kind of are, let me see, it's about a dilemma, a mystery, a question which the rational mind cannot solve, requiring a shift in the being of the student, which allows for a new understanding of the question itself. So for this shift in the being, so that we can see the whole thing in a different way. So these are days, I mean, traditionally there have been koans and wadus like, what is it? What is it that keeps you going on like this? It's not Buddha, it's not mind, it's not things. Then what is it? And then there's mu, mu, mu. Does a dog have a Buddha nature? Mu was the answer of the master. What is that mu? And who am I really is a basic question in the koan wadu tradition. And they say besides these ones that are in the tradition, we have everyday koans in our lives, almost every day. And sometimes there's one that keeps coming at us. I think that one is really, who am I? What is this? Yeah. And so we work with it as we do our formal practice. And we learn that working with a koan, with a question, with a mystery, with a dilemma, requires some creative moves, not just our one-trick pony stuff. We start to rely on uncertainty rather than everything is this way, and so this is how it works. It gets to change our idea of who we are, because once we start questioning and doing practices, the whole idea of me, my, I, and this is the way I do things begins to change. It requires a little courage. Often hidden kindness is uncovered. How wonderful. We learn often to give in and be still. Rather, we often give in, be still and give in. It's about embodiment. So the answer doesn't come from our rational mind, but we begin to trust that there's much more to us when we get embodied, and much more in the way that we can respond. Yeah. What's that expression from the Dhammapada? The mind talks, but the body knows. Yeah. And as we heard in the reading today, we're looking for this suchness, this nirvana. It is that place that the koans, the wadus, point to. And Venerable Samasunam gave us some characteristics of this suchness, this embodied harmonizing. intimate, immediate, spontaneous, and obvious. And instead of those being nouns, we begin to embody them as a kind of verbs, intimating, immediacying, spontaneousing, obviousing, moment by moment in this ordinary life. And what does it begin to look like? I have been reading this book, One Blade of Grass, and I tried to figure out why Henry Shukman called it One Blade of Grass. And I think it's because grass is about the most ordinary thing. And one blade of grass is really ordinary. And I think he is a really wonderful writer who's able to write about ordinary in a very beautiful way, along with the catalyst of his practice, his concentration practice, his koan practice, his everyday practice. So I like to read to you a little section from this One Blade of Grass. Life goes on. You have to keep making sense of the ordinary daily grind. But the training starts to infiltrate normal life, and odd moments of joy and minor revelation fall on us as we push the toddler on the swing or step off a cold street into a warm shop, which we aren't doing much of these days, or get in the car and listen to the choking of the starter motor. Everyday sights and sounds start to hit us in a more immediate way, and we meet them with appreciation. I understood more clearly why Zen had its historical affinity for poetry. It accentuated the senses. It opened up a capacity for cherishing the things of the world. A curtain stirring in a breeze. An unpeeled potato waiting patiently on a counter. A bar of soap in a beam of sun. The part of us that love things, Zen revived. It also helped with our manifest inadequacies, or mine, anyway, says Henry. Since Zen accepted everything as it was, it accepted us too, as we were, procrastinating, letting the bills pile up, drinking too much coffee, acting selfishly, stubbornly, whatever our shortcomings. Zen liked us just the same and enabled us not to mind ourselves so much. And because of that, it made it easier to roll up the sleeves and work on what needed working on. Yeah. And then one old master, when asked what Zen really was, thought for a while and said, Zen is doing what needs to be done. I really resonated with this little piece of writing because it kind of let everything kind of be. And still, we roll up our sleeves and get the work done. Yeah. So I like to talk about some of my rolling up my sleeves, a couple of stories before we have some special news to share with you. The first is a story that came up just a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, with my daughter in Buffalo, who has this two small She calls them the littles. She has 2 small kids. Violet is 9 or 10 months old, and Azure is almost 3. They're quite the picnic, those two. They really keep their parents, who at home, in the moment, that's for sure. And oftentimes go on FaceTimes so that I can see the kids. I love that, and sometimes I get to try to entertain them, which only lasts for about a minute, if that. I talked to you a couple of weeks ago about the owl eating broccoli. Yesterday I had some pigs that Azure remembered in the basement here, so I ran down and got them and did some, this little piggy went to market kind of thing with them. And then he was interested in something else. So this thing goes on quite a bit. And there I am with my daughter and often her husband, Cesar, and the kids. And I'll often say or think first, that girl should just be paying attention to her kids. She shouldn't be talking to me. And it's tough for me to see her difficulty and not be able to do anything. So and so this time I said it to her, Gomani, I think it would be better for you not to have to talk to me and, just get with your preparing the meal or the kids there. And she said, Mom, no, I want you to be my witness. And I just, wow. Okay, And so, yes. And then I began just to watch. She props up the phone so I could see. And see, it's actually interesting as I think of that they're doing so much better now, 2 or 3 weeks later, than it was then. And I saw how difficult it was. And rather than me trying to think that she should pay more attention here and there, I began to feel for her. I feel compassion. And when because I could see that they're all kind of suffering, trying to find their way. And as I recognized that suffering, my compassion came up. So this, Mom, I want you to witness, reminds me of what the old Zen master said once as advice. What's important? Attention. 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 Yeah. Okay, so that's a story that has brought me into a different mode often in every little corner of my life lately, just to give my attention. And it embodies that intimate, immediate, spontaneous, and obvious. Then the final story before the special announcement took place in quite a long time ago when my mother was dying. It was in the spring that we learned that she had pancreatic cancer. And gradually, she's in Vancouver, British Columbia. And as her sickness deepened, I would go and be with her for weekends. I would leave the temple here and go. And it was getting closer to her. She was in a palliative care meeting this one time when I went, and my stepfather picked me up at the airport and he drove me to the Grace Hospital where the palliative care unit was on the top floor. And I went up the elevator and got out, and there was right at the flowers and a little memorial to the people who had just recently died. And I greeted the old English nurse who was Mom's chief caretaker. She was a very motherly figure, and her hair swept back with a wisp coming down over her face, very tender, like a mother for me in a certain sense. And she said, Marjorie, that was my mother, Marjorie just has not slept for a few days. She's she's not doing well. So I went into the room, and there she was, just twitching and not really recognizing me, and her whole body contorted, and she'd lost a tremendous amount of weight, and she was just a shadow of her former self. And I started to cry. I just broke down and really cried and came to my knees on the floor beside her bed, bawling. My mother was such a vital person. I was used to her being in that way and playing ping pong with all my friends, always wanting to organize the parties for the teenagers, etc. And the old nurse came in, and I tried to pull myself together, and she said, "No, no, this is the time to cry. This is the time to cry." So I cried. And the old nurse came and went, and there I was with my mother. I was mostly staying in the hospital all of the time that I was there. I wanted to do something. She'd liked it when I massaged her hands, so I massaged her hands. And it didn't help. She was still so twitchy. And then I rubbed her feet. I spent quite a time with these. It didn't help. I went to her head, and I remember just cradling her head. Didn't help. I felt like, what can I do? What can I do? I didn't know. It was my koan, one of the biggest koans of my life. And so I sat down, and I remembered what had calmed the kids when they had been awake at the night. They were home with folks in the Sangha taking care of them. And I remember doing the Ma'um chanting for them. And I think it was for me too, because it calmed me. So I began to do the Ma'um chanting for my mom. And I did it with all my heart, because there wasn't like a choice. Let me just, it was kind of like a soul song. And I noticed after about 15 minutes that she calmed down. And after half an hour, she actually went to sleep. And I was so happy. I figured I'll just keep chanting, because I wanted to make sure she got into a deep sleep. And then when I stopped chanting, I fell asleep in the chair. It was one of those reclining ones for people who come and stay over. And after those hours that she was asleep, when she woke up, the old nurse came in. And "Marjorie," she said, "you finally had a good sleep. You know, when your daughter goes back to Ann Arbor, we'll get you some nice flute music or some organ music." And my mom said, "No, I want the Buddhist music." It was in the hospital that actually she said to me in another conference, "What do Buddhists believe about this?" And I told her, and she said, "That's what I think. Do you think I'm a Buddhist?" Anyway, so what happened after that is she didn't get flute music or organ music, but when I came back and my kids came back, they knew Ma'um chanting. We all did Ma'um chanting. Her husband, my stepfather, wasn't much of a Ma'um chanter, but he sang to her, and so did his daughter, who was with her often. as many people who came in usually would do some kind of chanting or singing with her. And I think that it helped us and it helped her a lot. So I'm saying, you know, it's like doing something different, something out of what you originally thought would work. And just being kind of still and troubled and letting something come. To me, often I'll say, okay, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, compassionate beings in all directions, endowed with all-knowing wisdom and loving compassion, could you please come through me somehow and give me a hint on this? Chanting seems to be a way that works for me. And meditation. When I get my nervous system calmed down. And chanting seems to do that. I think that's a big part of our working with each of our koans or wadus. It is calming down our nervous system, calming ourselves, letting our body be at ease so that itself, through sound, through touch, through whatever, can respond in its way to the difficulty or the question or the dilemma that seems to be right in front of us. So please take care of yourselves and help your families take care of yourselves. It's a golden lining time in that it gives us this homeschooling opportunity. And if we can see it as a koan, which requires our utmost creativity, a kindness, going beyond who we thought we were, it's quite wonderful. Eh? Okay. Let me just check if there's more here. Yeah, before the special announcement. These kind of beautiful things happen all the time. Yesterday, I was doing I'm a sanitizing person for the Sangha house and for the Buddha hall once a day. And when I was going over, last I go to my room and I go over my phone and I go over my keyboard and this and that. Was going over my keyboard, and all of a sudden some Dharma Moon music started to play. I don't know what I pressed that it came out like that. And it was, one of the songs was Dharma Moon, which was composed by one of our Dharma teachers many years ago in the 1990s. And we loved those songs, and people said when they played them in their cars with their kids that they learned more about Buddhism than they did by any other method. Paramita was really good at writing songs with lyrics that were really great and also that embodied all the basic teachings. And the song that came out, and I can't sing it very well, but I'll try. Say, how did all this material mosey into my mental mailbox? It's junk mail. Stick it in the garbage pail. You don't have to read it or repeat it. You don't have to swallow it or follow it. Junk mail. Anyway, my singing is bad, but what I liked was that there I was doing this ordinary thing, and all of a sudden, junk mail, and it reminded me that we don't have to pay attention to some of the stuff, the junk that comes into our minds. Just let it go and get back to ordinary daily life and our practice. And there's so much junk mail that comes in on the internet too, that we have to be a little sparse with that. So get on with your duties and enjoy the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. Now the announcement, and there's a beautiful story about it. For it is, the first beautiful story is that through these talks in the morning, we see that a lot of folks from our Chicago temple have been tuning in. Welcome all of you from all over the place. And of course, as well, from Ann Arbor Sangha members. And so just a few days ago, the folks from both temples got together to think of how we could do Buddha's birthday together. And so we have three plans for 3 events that we'll do together. And they will be via the internet. And Chicago Temple will do a couple, and this temple will do 1. And Buddha's birthday is on May 3rd, Sunday, May 3rd this year. And that's when we're going to celebrate it. And we are going to start out by asking all folks to make a lantern, either 1 lantern for a family or for each of you, to put over your altar or on your altar to be ready for that Buddha's birthday ceremony at this time on Sunday morning, May 3rd. And we'd like you to really treat the lantern as a koan and make it just very original for your family. You know, you've all seen our traditional beautiful lanterns, which start with a wire frame, and then they're covered with white tissue, and then petal by petal they're put on. Some of you may be able to do something like this, depending on the materials. But I know they're on the internet. Susan from our Grand Rapids temple found a pattern for a lantern, so that's available. And I know people can kind of make up their own special lantern. At camp, we make peace lanterns by using paper bags. And I think glass jars could be made in a beautiful way, like a lantern with a candle inside. And I wanted to show you this one that was made by one of our residents, and then we all joined in a few years ago. We called it an echo lantern, and we saved things from the recycling for several weeks, and especially things that were kind of shiny and a little fascinating, and gradually put them together to make this echo lantern. So maybe this is something that you would also like to try. So please give it some thought wherever you are, and see, in the next month, we've got just a little less than a month to come up with one of these Buddha's birthday lanterns in the spirit of be ye a lamp or be ye a light. Okay, so we will give more information about that and the whole program for the Buddha's birthday day and the Saturday night before. In the meantime, I hope you'll get started and let us know what you've got in mind, even sending pictures of the process, which then we can use to inspire others when we send out our e-bulletin. Okay, let's finish this part of the service with the 4 great vows, and then Maum has some announcements before we finish the service for the 3rd Sunday in a row. So please repeat after me. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Okay, I will turn the camera so that you can see more. There she is.
I'm curious, can you see this? And is it like a mirror in reverse? Sort of hard to read. I think we will not try this method in the future. Instead, when I have things to refer to you, I will try to speak slowly and to spell them. So, hey, good morning, everybody. It's so nice to be with you today, and keep all the wonderful emails and letters coming in. We so much enjoy hearing from you. I wanted to highlight events that are going on today. All of these events are posted on our website. So the address for our website, once you get off this call, you can go there and click on links to events. So if you have a pencil and paper, please write down this address: www.facebook.com/Zen Buddhist Temple. That's all one word. ZenBuddhistTemple. So there's two T's. ZenBuddhistTemple. So today, immediately after service, we have a tea time that is hosted by Tongsan and Kusa. Tongsan is a Dharma guardian and seminary student, and Kusa is a Dharma teacher from Colorado. Technical issues that appeared last week have been resolved, and there is a new link. So please go to the website to retrieve it. So that meeting will occur after service until noon, when other meetings begin. At noontime, there will be Recovery Dharma. The link for that is posted on our website. And there will also be the beginning of a new practice period on self-compassion. This past week, we provided a link to a live stream Dharma talk, or a recorded Dharma talk by Kogi Jennifer Ratliff on this topic of self-compassion. It was quite beautiful and compelling. And now we want to bring this practice to you so that you can participate on a weekly basis. Because the facilitators need to invite you into the meeting, if you're not already signed up and you want to participate, then right after this service, if you would please send an email to the temple, Ann Arbor Zen Temple @gmail.com, or call the temple and I will get you signed up. This afternoon at 2:30, from 2:30 to 3:45, there will be a meeting of those, an online meeting of those who are participating in precepts this year. So you would have received, those who are in that group, you would have received an invitation from your facilitator. There's 3 separate groups. So please check your email for that invitation. And again, call the temple if you have any challenges getting in. Yes.
It looks like on the chat that there's people, both Tongsan and Kusa are on all the chats, so that there are some links there. Is that true, Kusa? That they could go through the chats and find the links?
I don't know if they have access to these chats. Can you see it? Oh, okay. What's the response that's coming?
He says, no, he's not posting links here. Okay, so that you have to pay attention to what Marlon was saying. Yeah. Put up that sign, I think.
Okay, we'll try this again. I hope that you can read it. This is our Facebook page. www.facebook.com/Zen Buddhist Temple. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Zen Buddhist Temple. There are other things coming in the chat.
It's coming in that you can read it. So it's not backwards. I guess people can read it. So
good.
So let's keep it up there for a little while.
Okay. There we go.
This is called ordinary everyday life with a clipboard. We can read it, says Ryan Welch. Kusa, thank you.
Hey, those are all the announcements I have. I do want to express gratitude to all of those who have continued your membership donations to the temple and have maybe sent us a special check or sent us something through PayPal. Your support is so gratefully received at this point. I know that things are tough out there for everybody. And so also, if you have needs, please call the temple and we'll do our best to hook you up with resources that will be helpful to you.
Okay, so I think we're good for this week. We look forward to seeing you next week. And in the meantime, may you be well and enjoy moment by moment. These are precious times in their difficulty, and also when we pay attention. Each moment has its the ordinary potato effect kind of thing. Okay, bye.